Welcome back to the podcast. Today, guys, we have a very exciting guest on the podcast, Danny Simmons, and we also are catching you at an interesting time, in the middle of your season, got some big races coming up, so super exciting for you and for us to get to talk to you. Let's talk a little bit about you and tell us a little bit about yourself and then what your normal day looks like.
So I'm obviously a runner. I live, let's see. Yeah, I guess I'm just the only one in my house right now. I have a few siblings, large family. I guess my day starts out with morning practice with my team, and then we hit up some breakfast. I have the same breakfast routine usually. Like at least I always eat oatmeal for breakfast. Dude, and then a fruit.
Oatmeal is so perfect.
It's so good. And I usually only put honey in it, so that's my secret recipe for breakfast. Yeah, oatmeal and fruit, and then I go straight to first period, and then go through school, and then after school we have a little break in between school and practice, and so I'll either do a little bit of homework, or I'll just rest a little bit and then change, get ready for practice, go to practice,
perfect,
stretch, do all the stuff after practice, and then come home, eat dinner, homework. Maybe movie, hang out with friends, and then head to bed.
Dude,
and repeat.
That's the simple life. That's quality right there. What time is the usual bedtime, and what time do you usually get up?
I try to be clocking down and turning off my phone. No more watching movies or high active stuff around 8:30, and then.
That's awesome.
If I have homework that I really need to get finished, I want to be asleep by 9:30, but sometimes I do my homework until 9:30 and then try and fall asleep as fast as possible.
Gotcha. That's a good habit, kind of having your phone done and then easy into going to bed. That's awesome. So and then up around 6, would you say, or when do you think you should?
Yeah. Okay. 6:08.
6:08. Is it really 6:08?
Yeah, just so I have 2 minutes to get out of bed and then get dressed. Grab a drink of water, and then I head to practice. Starts at 6:30 sharp.
Okay. So are you that meticulous about everything in your life? As in you get the 08, not the 6:10 or.
Well, I started with 6:10, and then I felt rushed whenever I got to the high school, and so I was 2 minutes. Yeah. And then it's perfect. It's worked.
So American Fork does team practice in the morning and in the afternoon. You guys do both.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Every high school I ever went to, morning was on your own, and then the afternoon is with the team.
That's interesting.
So, do you feel like you get too much team time in there, or you still liking everybody?
No, I think the morning runs actually help us come closer, because it's we just have, it's a really easy run, and we're all sleepy, but we're all with each other, and it's really we get to stay safer at one, and then it gives you kind of more a commitment to do the morning practice. You show up for your team. Yeah. Instead of being I'm tired this morning, I really don't want to.
Cool. Well, this is fun. I'm really glad I'm catching the middle of the season, because it's making me excited about watching you guys race. But before we get into all of that, let's talk a little bit about your journey with running and kind of how you got to be where you are now. What got you into the sport?
I'd have to say definitely my siblings. When I was younger, I watched my older brother Joe. He ran with Casey Klinger, a pretty popular name in the sport. Here in Utah, at least. And I was at the Nike Cross Nationals the first year he won, and
wow.
And so that was super tough, and I was oh man, I want to be that. And so that was third grade, fourth grade.
Wow.
And so I ran a little bit, not anything official, just for fun. Just because running as a kid is kind of the thing, maybe.
Totally, yeah.
And then
moving around a bunch.
Yeah. And then when I moved to Idaho, and my older brother John was definitely the person that pulled me into holding or staying in cross country after middle school. My freshman year, he was a senior, and we got to run together a lot, and so. I think that's where my running journey turned into I love running rather than I love winning. I love beating people and stuff. So I think that definitely helped. And then after that, my sophomore year, it was a pretty. I trained alone for the whole season, just trying to gut it out.
Is this in Idaho?
Yeah, okay. This is in Idaho. Yep. Cool. And that was a tough season, but I had tons of good lessons learned there, and I think it's really strengthened me for my junior year. Moving here, I had a team to train with, wonderful coach, super program, and
Awesome.
Yeah, leads me in the senior season.
Cool. So, let's talk a little bit about your high school running progression. Let's talk about, maybe you were running certain times in, your freshman, sophomore year, and how did that progress into running the times you are now?
I think so.
Like, did you know you were fast immediately when you got into it, or did it take a second?
I mean, I think based off like middle school, I knew I was pretty fast just because I could win a lot of races.
And when you win in middle school, like if you're gonna win, it's usually big, which is fun.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's insane.
People get a little bit better as you get into high school and into college, but winning in middle school is fun.
Yeah, that's facts. That is so true. I think, yeah, I mean, I hoped I was fast, and I think that's really what kept me growing, is I believed that I was fast, and so
Awesome.
I could keep progressing.
What a fun thing to realize that you actually were.
Yeah. Yeah.
Was there like one race where you were like, okay, yeah, like this is gonna be legit for me?
I think freshman year, for staying there, I think the one race that like was like, oh wow, this is pretty cool, was my state championships. Me and my brother went 1-2. He won. I took second.
As a freshman,
And
that's crazy.
Yeah,
That's
it was
amazing.
pretty fun.
Cool.
Yeah.
And then now being where you are, what do you think? Which race are you most proud of? Which accomplishment?
That's a.
I
I think.
have a hard time answering this one too.
Yeah, I mean, it's between, I'd have to say NXN and
Yeah.
NXR. Winning NXR and taking second at NXN, those are both
Yeah, that's phenomenal.
pretty good ones.
Yeah, and to watch you do that as a junior is so uncommon and so fun to see as well. So. Yeah, congrats on those things, and hopefully we're about to see some more big wins here soon.
Hopefully, yeah.
But let's talk a little bit about preparing for NXN and what that looks like. And we talked a little bit earlier preparing for this podcast about Heron being a good team, and there's lots of other good teams out there. How are you preparing individually and as a team to be ready to go on to state, NXR, and then NXN all in the next month or so?
I'd say that the thing that we've been focusing on is like, it's really important that we believe what we can do. Like, we believe in the training. We believe that we can win. It's not something that's impossible to us. And it's really important that we do that, because if you don't believe it, your body's not going to do it. Yeah. And I think something else we want to is like being humble. I think it's really important that we stay like low, like cool-headed. We're not trying to make anyone angry or sad, We just want to have the best races we can, and that's for us. That's not to put on anyone else, and I think that's going to help us a lot.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for listening. This episode is sponsored by Talked. My co-founder and I started this business to help athletes connect with mentors. I'm a strong believer that the only shortcut to success is mentorship. If you can talk to somebody who's been where you would like to go, you're so much more able to see what that pathway looks like, and you're able to believe that it's possible for you because somebody else is talking to you and drawing out the exact pathway to get there. All you have to do is go on the website, you go down on the website and you scroll for mentors, find somebody that you want to talk to. You can talk to Simeon Birnbaum, who's one of the fastest high school 2-milers of all time. And you type in this little box something that you would like to talk to him about, something that will help you for your races or training, mentality, whatever you need. A particular topic right now might be prepping for NXR or NXN. And then you just click next. And then what you can do is you schedule a time to talk to Simeon or whichever other mentor you choose. One huge thing is that Craig Ingalls is about to get on the platform, so you'll be able to schedule and talk to him within the next few days. So let's get back to the episode. Thanks for listening. I really liked what you just said at the end there, racing for you guys and keeping that something that's, closer to the team, because I think that, you can get so caught up in what MileSplit's doing or what Runner Space is doing and what all the talk is saying. At the end of the day, it comes down to you and your teammates and what you guys can do, and it matters to you guys and your families. And I think it's really good to not hype yourself up too much, because then it makes it feel like really anxious and scary. And I think that that's something that, you know, I've been privileged to be on teams that were really good at that. You know, when I ran at Mountain Vista, we had a really good team, and our coach, you know, I think when I got to Mountain Vista, we'd already won 7 state championships. I had like the last 9.
Dang. Okay.
And that coach was like, "You guys are not gonna go like be super public about this. Like, you're not saying we're gonna win everything. Like, we're just gonna like put our heads down and work." And you know, I think it's a good mentality, and I also think it's so important to believe in yourself as well, and maybe do that in a quieter way. What ways do you think you guys have been able to, you know, make that part of your team culture, as in believing in yourselves? Because I think it's one thing to just say it, but are you guys like actively going after that, or is it something you all just kind of understand?
I think it's both. Like we got to remind each other sometimes, and it's really important that we all know it on an individual level. I think something what we do is like, you know, in practices on our harder runs, it's like you really got to believe that this is going to help you.
Mm-hmm.
This is you can make it through it. Like you don't want to give up. You can push hard. And that really helps on an individual level. And then like as a team, we're with each other. We got the belief in each of us for each other, and it helps stir it up within individuals.
Yeah, that's awesome. Do you feel like it's difficult for you guys to have everybody from, you know, 1 to 7 to beyond bought in, or is that something that comes pretty naturally to all of you?
I think it's become pretty pre-natural, because
That's
like
awesome.
it's really like if anyone starts like going off like the deep end, we all are just like, hey man, no, you got to stay. This is lie. Like this is not true. You can do it. Like this is good.
Totally.
We're gonna be good.
Awesome. I love that. Well, cool. I'm excited to see how those things play out. I'm sure you're gonna do fantastic. You committed to BYU, which I'm stoked about. I haven't been running. I've been injured, so I'm more of an observer. But was that a tough decision to make, and are you excited for that next chapter?
I think that was a pretty tough decision to make.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I'm sure you have incredible options, so that's not. It makes it a little bit harder, you know.
Yeah, for sure. I think it was the right one though. I'm really excited to move forward with BYU. Like,
cool.
Feels very good inside me, and they're doing great as a program right now.
Yeah.
Let's see. Yeah, I think that's
awesome. Yeah, that's a quality answer. I think that it was hard for me when I decided as well. Like I was just like looking at a bunch of different places, and at the end of the day, I feel like BYU just felt like such a, you know, it felt like home to me, and that team feels like home, and they work their butts off and they have fun, and I think everybody's like good about being like balanced in their life as well, but still like putting a lot into the sport, which I've always really appreciated.
Yeah,
but
I agree.
Let's talk about some of the challenges you've had in running and how you've been able to overcome those things, and you know, be a better runner and keep going and pushing and winning races.
Okay. I think the one that's coming up to my mind right now is last year, junior year, beginning of the season. My goal was to win NXN. You know, that was the ultimate. That's the thing that keeps me working hard.
Yeah.
And I think so. The first race we have is like just American Fork versus a couple other small teams at a very small meet. That's really hard, and it's like slower course. And I got a win there, but then the next week we went down to Timpanogos, and I raced against Tayson Echo-Hawk and Liam Henninger and Jaron Hartshorn, you know, a lot of fast guys that were there, and I ended up taking third, and I was like, how am I going to win NXN if I can't even beat these guys? And they were like, I think they're like 20 seconds in front of me too, so it was like a big margin. It was really hard to believe in myself after that. And that's where, like, you know, my teammates really, really helped a lot. Because if I was all alone, I think I might have given up right there. But, you know, they gave me a lot of better perspective. Like, you know, that week might have been one of the harder weeks we trained through. And we kind of were just going through that race because it's the beginning of the season. We're still trying to build a strong base and get the speed down. And so I think it was really important that I really stopped looking at the race and looked at all the other angles of why I was hurting, I was sick. You know, there was a couple things that really slowed me down, potentially. And I just think it's so important that on those tough times, it's like you got to have someone else there to support you and help you 100%. See the truth of the situation, really.
Totally. Yeah, you know, and I think for a guy like you have fantastic teammates. Unfortunately, not everybody has that, and so I think that if people don't have that, you got to find a community elsewhere. If your team is super committed, that's a fantastic place to start. Or maybe you get some guys in your team that are a little bit more committed, or maybe it's going and find people in nearby schools and meeting up for morning runs or something every once in a while, and making sure you have those people that believe in you and push you forward. But do you feel like with the success you've had in high school running, there's something that you've done differently than other runners to enable the success that you've had?
I mean, yeah, I think like that's a really good question. I believe like the thing that's helped me a lot is running is huge in my life, obviously, but I take the principles I learned in running and like try and put them everywhere else in my life.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it really helps me, feel like successful, I guess, in other areas than just running. And I think it's really lifted like my spirits, and I believe like one other thing I do is like I eat. I'm like a vegan basically.
Okay.
And so
that's what I did all of high school.
Really? Oh,
yeah.
Sweet. Yeah.
I've kind of taken a turn since, but yeah, I was vegan all of high school. So.
That's high. Yeah, I think that's helped me a lot.
That's awesome.
As well.
Cool. Yeah, no, I definitely feel like, especially in high school, like people don't understand how much your food affects your training.
Yeah.
And I talked to Clayton Young last week, and he was talking about how, rule number one is just to eat. Like as a runner, like you got to be getting in a ton of calories, but then after that, like what you are feeding yourself really matters in like terms of recovery and getting back and going the next day, because in a lot of ways, that's the game of running, is seeing how far you can push yourself and then how quickly you can recover and go at it again, so you can just get better and better. So, anyways, well, cool. That's good to hear. Do you have any advice for maybe younger runners who are just getting into the sport, or maybe they're a freshman trying to form their team culture and build, and they want their team to be the next American Fork, or they want to be the next Danny Simmons and go and run at NXN and be a part of some of the incredible opportunities that you've had?
Yeah, I do. I think something that I'm like starting to learn right now that has like become really big is you can't really focus on paces.
Yeah.
I believe that it's really important to know your pace and to like run your race, but you've got to believe that there's not a limit to you, or you're not going to ever really achieve the thing that no one believes you can. And you got to be able to do that to shock, to find success, I'd say.
Yeah.
You can't calculate everything. You got to feel it, And I'd say that's big.
I read a book a little while ago, and I can't remember what it's called, but I think it was maybe called Peak Performance, and it talked about how this individual was, hitting a wall like every time he was running. He just like wasn't able to break like 404. I think he just like 404, 404, 404 every time he ran, and then somebody called off his split incorrectly, and he like sped up to make up for it, and then all of a sudden was like 358 or something, just like a huge breakthrough. And I think that obviously we're in a sport that's very mental. There's a huge mental game to it, and I really like that advice, because sometimes I feel like you have to not believe in that story and instead just do like what your body can do, and like let that be a feel thing, and and go hard and surprise yourself. And I think sometimes people bonk and then they get scared, but I think sometimes it's okay to push yourself to the very end, so where that is, and what that feels like, and then you can work backwards from there. But I think people spend a lot of time not going hard enough as well, and obviously there's some nuance in how to go about that, but I think that's really sound advice. So, well, cool. I think my last question for you is, how has mentorship played a role in your life?
I think it's been so important, because like earlier when we talked about the rough, like hard times, like it's so important to have someone that can help you see what really happened and what's really going on. And I'd have to say that like the person that's been my biggest mentor has been my dad. He's been with me since I started running. He's helped me find what works best for me, gear, running, if I even like running, and he's always with me and I can talk to him about what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling, and he's really helped me see with a bigger eye how things are going and how things could be if I want to change things around, and I just think it's really important.
Yeah. My mom does the same thing for me. Like I set a goal and she'll look at it like, what? You can go, aim a little higher. It feels good to have people that believe in you and that can empower you to do bigger things. But I'm a liar. I do have one more question.
Okay.
Do you have anything that you say to yourself in a race when you're hurting and you just like want to go a little bit faster and push yourself a little bit more? Or is it just like a be present in the moment and beat the next guy?
I think it's both, but something I used last year was my phrase was I run for Christ. That was my phrase.
Quality.
And I really think that worked a lot. For any time I was like about to give up, I was like, no, man, you can't give up. You got this.
There's a bigger purpose behind this.
Yeah. And then I think
awesome.
the new one I adopted this year was kind of like an alter ego to be the best version of myself. And I call myself Daniel the Lion. And
Love it.
It just helps me feel that like beast kind of that could be in me.
Yeah, no, it definitely feels good to like tap into a side of yourself that just like, feels like kind of invincible and go and be that. So anyways, well, thanks so much for getting on the podcast. Love interviewing you. You guys go follow this guy on Instagram. I'll link it. Thanks for listening. Catch you on the next episode.